I wish I could tell you that help is coming, but honestly, it might not. Today I want to give you a warning, and this warning has to do with additional stimulus. What we are now seeing is that not only is the federal government not going to be sending out any type of stimulus payments, but we are now being threatened that states might not be sending out payments either. I want to address why that is, what is actually coming, and what you should look forward to. So, before I dive into any of that, first all I ask is if you enjoy these daily updates, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button. Also, consider subscribing so you never miss an update. But here's what's going on. Everybody is struggling. Everybody's struggling because their hours have been cut. Wages are not going up as high as inflation. We're also seeing some people have lost their jobs. We're seeing massive layoffs all over the country. Now, what's happening though is big companies aren't laying off 10, 20, 30,000 employees. That's why you don't see it in the media. What's happening is smaller companies are laying off 5, 10, 15 people. And if 200,000 companies all do the same thing, then guess what? We now have millions of people that are unemployed. But there's something else that's actually happening. This is actually causing some states to reconsider whether or not they have the funds to actually provide relief. Now, here's what's going on. I know you've seen this all over the news, but let me just remind you. We're seeing fires. We're seeing fires like we did just recently in Lahaina. Here in Washington State, we have a fire called the Sourdough Fire. Houston, just recently, had a mulch fire. We have seen evacuations plenty all across the United States. California's fires are worsening like never before. Hawaii, again, we'll talk about that in just a second, but the biggest thing here is what's happening? Why are things getting worse? Well, here's the thing. I don't know. Yes, there's climate change. We're seeing different changes all across the globe, not just here in the US. But what is happening is that states are sitting on billions and billions of dollars of pandemic aid. But that money is supposed to go out to provide additional relief. What's happening though, and according to multiple reports out just this morning, is now states are considering holding off on providing additional relief because they're worried about a potential disaster, like what happened in Lahaina. Now, I want to show you this. One Democrat says that President Biden said no comment on wildfires, and he would expect more. I want to read you this. Okay. Now, President Biden is on a beach. It's called Rehoboth Beach. Okay. He's there with his wife. But this is what this person said on Twitter. This is what this reporter, this Democrat, said on Twitter. It says, after a couple hours on the Rehoboth Beach, the President of the United States was asked about the rising death toll in Hawaii. And he said, no comment, before heading home. Now, here's what's interesting about this. President Biden doesn't want to comment on that for a couple reasons. Number one, he hasn't been there. Number two, he's sitting on his own beach, right? Doesn't look good. But this is what he said. President Biden says he will visit Hawaii soon, or as soon as possible. Okay, great. But here's the problem. Just going to Hawaii doesn't fix the problem. It shows that he's understanding, he wants to go see what has actually happened, see firsthand, and maybe provide some support. But this is what's going on. This is why some are extremely worried that we are not going to see any additional stimulus or relief or assistance or aid, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to see it from the states. We're not going to see it from the federal government, and we're not going to see a push from President Biden. But you know what he is pushing for? He's pushing for $23 billion to go to Ukraine. But yet, some are saying we might only see $5 to $10 billion go to Hawaii. Think about that for a second. The stimulus that we could potentially inject into our economy to help out our economy, to help out those that are struggling, might not see it. It might go to another country. Now, Here's one thing I can tell you. Paying or providing much more stimulus to those that don't need it is only going to cause additional inflation. So right now, the federal government and states have to be somewhat aware of how much money they do spend, because it could provide an uptick in inflation. When we've already seen just this past month, inflation went from 3% to 3.2%. I'm not saying that's a huge jump, but that shows we're going in the wrong direction. We're now going back up. So, here's my warning to you. If you are currently struggling, now's the time to pretty much understand the federal government is not coming to our aid. Now's the time to understand that states are going to hold off on providing additional relief because they want to be prepared in case of an emergency, especially when it comes to states here on the West Coast. Washington State, Oregon, California, okay, Texas, Hawaii. All these states are currently being impacted. Every single one of these states currently has a fire. So the one thing I can tell you is just be ready, save some money, stop spending as much money, get an extra job, work some extra hours, put money aside for an emergency, because I can guarantee you at some point you are going to experience some form of an emergency. So, just wanted to fill you in on what's going on at this time, fill you in on what is currently being said regarding any additional stimulus or relief for you and your family. But again, as soon as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.